Hello, everyone. We are here. It is 2:01 a.m. at Foxborough, in Foxborough at Gillette Stadium. I can't use my words anymore. We'll see how long everyone else can. We are here in the aftermath of the Chiefs' 43-40 first loss of the season to the Patriots. I've got Len Worthy on one side of me. I've got Sam Mellinger on the other side of me, and I've got pizza right behind me. I'm really hungry. I'm probably going to eat some during this broadcast, so judge me if you want. I don't really care. It's a late night. So we have a lot to unpack tonight. This was a crazy game, probably the best of the NFL regular season, certainly the best one I watched this season. And while Sam is flipping through the stats, I'm going to ask you if anything has jumped out to you while you're flipping through here. If you have anything on your mind. That's just we're not actually reading the stats. We're going to make them up.
Well, I think what jumps out, though, right, is that that's the worst that Patrick Mahomes has looked as a professional quarterback. And then that's the best that Patrick Mahomes has looked as a professional quarterback.
We got the whole first 5 weeks of the season in that game.
Oh, my God. That was incredible. He was lost. He was rushed. He was confused. And then he was just a bad ass against that
2
team.
a.m. we can say that.
The dynasty of the 21st century, the biggest platform that regular season NFL has to offer, right? Sunday night, Foxborough, all that stuff. I mean, that was an incredible performance. And also, the other thing that I didn't really consciously think about this until I was downstairs going into the locker room, but the defense right now is so horrendous that you don't even consider the possibility that they might get a stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, field goals are great. And you just kind of think like, well, what do you expect? That's the Chiefs defense. Of course they're going to give it up. I think, flipping through here, all right, the Patriots had basically, they list 12, but basically they had 11 possessions. I'm not counting the one, right at the end of the half.
Right.
They basically had 11 possessions. They scored on 9 of them. That's not what you want.
No, it's not. And the two that they didn't score on, one was the first one when the Chiefs got a turnover on downs, which seemed like it was going to be a great start for the game. Like, wow, look at this. The Chiefs defense got another stop to open the game. And then they didn't. And then there was the then there was the fumble, the Reeland Speaks forced fumble, which was the highlight of his game, and then it kind of went downhill after that.
They didn't punt the entire game, right?
Nope.
No punts.
There was one punt, and it was by Colquitt.
You can call it a punt game, which is what somebody on Twitter said. Yeah.
The A punt. No, it is not what you want. A punt.
A punt. Whatever. This is what you get with the best Chiefs coverage in the business. Right, guys?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
We are the best. And it's so late. We're so tired. And Vahi's probably asleep somewhere. Just kidding. Vahi's working on a really great column. Lynn, I'll toss that really vague and open-ended question to you. What jumps out to you? I'll repeat it, don't worry. What jumps out to you as you were finishing up your game coverage, your follow-up story? You did the report card. How about this? Who got the best grade on your report card?
I believe it was probably... Shoot, I don't even remember now. I'm going to say it was probably the passing game, even though it was looking like one of the worst grades by about halftime, and then it turned it around. So I'm going to have to say it was probably that, or it was special teams. I can't remember because they had the big return late. Tremont Smith had the big return to set up the go-ahead touchdown, which I believe, if I remember right, it was the touchdown that gave them a lead for the first time since 3-0 in the first quarter. So it's probably special teams, but I'm not going to lie, I can't remember what grades I gave at this point. It seems like a long time ago I gave those grades.
If you gave special teams a good grade, it's with good reason. Tremont Smith, who we'll write about later this week, I mean, he's going to get lost in the rest of the things that we talk about tonight because there were so many other elements, but his 97-yard kickoff return is huge, especially when you consider this guy had no idea that he was going to be back there until, 3 days ago when DeAnthony Thomas broke his leg. Going to be out for a very long time. Likely, they haven't said season ending, but I mean, that's got to be season ending. This is a guy who we saw doing this in the preseason. We saw him doing this in training camp. He said he has lion speed. It's not quite cheetah speed, but it's close. And I think if he had cheetah speed, he would have finished that off and scored a touchdown because he got caught right at the end. From behind.
Yeah. And he was...
No, we used to see Tyreek Hill in that.
He heard about that. It was good naturedly, but he heard about that a little bit.
Right.
At least while we were in there. So,
yeah, I think he's definitely someone that we're going to be talking about more and more, considering he looks
like he'll be the return guy now. I mean, with
how can he not be?
Gone, especially you come through with a return like that. I mean, this is a guy who the previous 2 weeks wasn't even active. because he had sort of fallen behind Javarius Ward in terms of, one of the corner that was active, the corner who wasn't. And so he hadn't even been active, and then he comes out, and that was, at least especially at that time, looked like it was a game-changing play because it set up that go-ahead touchdown.
Yeah.
And it was definitely the biggest special teams play of the night. So, yeah.
And I think he's a great way to segue into one of the big themes of this game is the replacements. Tremont Smith's replacing DeAnthony Thomas. When we start the game, we already have Jordan Lucas replacing Eric Murray. There's Breland Speaks gets his first career start replacing Justin Houston. On the other side of the ball, there's Jordan Devey who's replacing Laurent Duvernay-Tardif. And then as the game goes on, by the end of the first half, Jordan Devey's now moved over to center, and we've got Andrew Wiley in at right guard when Mitch Morse, who's a guy that has had a history with concussions, is out with the concussion, not what you want to see for him. But on the whole, Sam, how did you think the replacements kind of stepped in and played?
I thought they did as well as you could expect, which isn't that well. There's just the offensive line. I thought, talk about those guys first, I guess. I thought they held up fine. That was great. I was worried about. We talked during the week. LDT is so good in space on those screens. Obviously, didn't seem to slow down the offense. Right? They were scoring just fine. The biggest difference from the replacements to me was the lack of pass rush. Mm-hmm. When you go from Justin Houston to Breland Speaks, that's just a huge drop. It's a huge drop in a lot of ways. But most specifically the pass rush, but also just Justin Houston is such a diverse talent. Rushes the passer, plays the run. Nobody wants to hear it, but he's pretty good in coverage when he does that too. And when you're missing that, you just, there's not a replacement that they can have for that.
What I thought was interesting was Breland Speaks. I wasn't in the locker room to hear this, but got the alert from the NFL Network on my phone. Breland talking about that sack that it looked like he had of Tom Brady. I mean, he was on him, and then he kind of let go. It was the weirdest thing, and then Brady ran in for the touchdown. He said one of the reasons he let up was he thought the ball was out of his hand. He didn't want to get called for roughing the passer, whatever that word is, which I thought was really interesting. Also kind of indicative of the atmosphere in this league as a whole right now, that these defensive players aren't protected at all. That's not to say that Breland Speaks is without blame here, but I thought that was a really interesting thing that he was thinking about afterward. Like, all he can think is, I don't want to get that penalty. I don't want to get that penalty.
Yeah. And
then he makes a mistake like that, and it would have held them to a field goal. This game would be a lot different right now. We might be tied.
Yeah. You'd still like for him to wrap up anyway and worry about the penalty later.
Right.
I don't think Justin Houston's letting him go.
No. Justin Houston's also making a lot more money, though. If you're
He'll
thinking
take a
about
fine.
these fines,
Yeah, that's a good
I don't know
point.
what Breland Speaks'
Yeah.
game check is, but
It does. I'm sorry. Go
Oh
ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say, but Justin Houston's also been in a lot more situations. I mean, because from me, and maybe it's just because of the teams that I follow and stuff like that, but it made me flash back to Matthias Kiwanuka. I don't know if you remember that one. For the Giants, he had Vince Young wrapped up and let go. And at the time it went viral. It was back in 2006, but at the time it went viral because Tom Coughlin got right in his face after the play because he had him sacked, let go because he thought he threw the ball. Vince Young ran for first down. I think if I remember right, they ended up winning that game because of they had him stopped. He had him wrapped. He let him go. He runs for first down, and they end up losing the game. And the fact that Coughlin reacted the way he did right after that got Kiwanuka's face. And I don't remember if he was a rookie, but I think he might have been too. It's one of those things where it's you hate to say rookie mistake, but I think that's one of those things where with more experience that we probably don't make that play. Mm-hmm. But
I think that required two things, right? It required him being a rookie, like you just said, and it required the point you just made. Mm-hmm. The environment, the context that these games are being played in is so. The pendulum has swung so far. Mm-hmm. Some of it is for good reasons. There's a hyper awareness of head injuries and all that stuff. But my goodness, everything is skewed so far against defenders for offensive players that I think you're going to see stuff like this.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. Although both Jason and Jordan mentioned that there was a defensive holding penalty on that Speaks play anyway, so it may not have mattered that much. I don't remember seeing that. But
Skadrick was called
I
for
blacked
holding.
out for a lot of that game.
So the touchdown might not have happened on that play, but the sack wasn't going to hold up either way.
They, they'd had first and goal at the one.
Yeah, so they would have been first. Would have been first down. But the other thing that it was sort of interesting too is he, talking to Speaks, I was there when he was talking afterwards. He also mentioned the whole idea of he said, not only is that probably going to get called, he's like, we're in New England, it's Tom Brady. he's going to get that call. Like speaks flat out, he's going to get that call in New England. So if he throws him down, if he takes him to the ground, and you've seen Tom Brady not so much in this game, but you've seen him before where he sort of embellishes and will literally look at the refs and what are you not
waiting for
and
the flag.
sure enough, next time the flag is they're ready, waiting to pull that one out. So he's probably right when he says that if he
he's 100% right.
They're gonna throw it in New England, especially in how tight that situation was. They probably throw that flag.
Well, Larry asked, do we think the rules will ever be adjusted back to defensive players and their ability to tackle, not with the head down? And I don't know how you correct from where it is now.
I do. I think there'll be. I do think of it like this pendulum. And I don't think it'll ever be like the 70s and the 80s. Chuck Cecil is not walking through that door or whatever. But I think in 10 years we're going to look back at 2018 and maybe 2009, however long this goes. I think we're going to look back at this. I think they'll continue to protect quarterbacks to a certain extent, but some of these requiring contortions in jiu-jitsu to bring down the quarterback without getting a penalty for it. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. And I think that's another good segue into the penalties tonight. I got to look at the numbers. I know New England's number. They had no penalties.
You want to go through their penalties real quick?
And we're done. That's what Sam was counting earlier. That's why he was flipping so fast. But the Chiefs had 5 penalties for 58 yards. I believe Blair, who is operating behind the camera right now, mentioned at the end of the game that the Chiefs are one of the most penalized teams in the NFL, will likely be the most penalized team at the end of this when the new numbers come out this week. How much are those penalties hurting the Chiefs, and does it seem like this is something that can be corrected? Is it something that it's a random occurrence? I mean, what do we kind of make of these?
Well, and then there were, so the number was 5 for 58, but there was penalties that weren't accepted.
Right.
That doesn't include the 42-yard penalty on pass interference that was declined because he still made the catch. So there are more penalties that probably could have been called, but because the Patriots were still making plays, it didn't matter. The pass interference ones, the simple answer is
that's
you
their pass defense.
You just got to cover better. But and the funny thing is I'm not sure if you see some of those 2 weeks ago because now they've added Edelman back. Now they got Josh Gordon rolling. So 2 weeks ago you might not have saw that, but right now I think you just got to cover better. And now that they're starting to get a clear allotment of receivers, the Hogan kid who's got speed too. I'm not really sure what your answer is on those specific ones. The ones that usually bother me more, the ones that stand out to me are the false starts. Those ones are just sort of this, being just having discipline.
I didn't think the penalties for that were a problem for them. 5 for 58, Chiefs will take that.
Yeah.
Like you said, some of those pass interference on those corners, it's sort of like shooters get shot sometimes. If you're playing physical defense, sometimes you're going to get a penalty. One penalty that really helped the Chiefs was a block in the back on Frank Zombo that was not called on Traymon Smith's big kick return. So, I think particularly it was the play near the goal line. Chiefs had the ball near the goal line. It was the third down incompletion to Sammy Watkins, I think. It was early in the game. And it looked like Kelsey was, getting the business a little bit. I don't know if it was, I think some of it was within 5, should have been called. That could have been a flag there. That was the biggest miss I noticed that went against the Chiefs. But I don't know. All in all, the refs weren't the problem here.
It's true. There were a lot of other problems. I think you mentioned Kelsey, which reminds me, going into this game, Lynn, you wrote a lot about the tight ends and what a great tight end matchup this was going to be. Looking at these stats, Kelsey targeted 9 times, 5 catches, 61 yards. His longest was 17. The other side, Gronk was targeted 4 times, had 3 catches for 97 yards. The biggest one there being right at the end. I think that
2 of the biggest ones those last couple of drives.
Yeah.
I remember one of them was 40 or something like that.
42 yards.
Yeah. And he was, again, that's where I feel like the fact that they have Edelman and Gordon now back, you have to make choices on who you're going to sort of, roll the dice with. Mm-hmm. And it's not a good matchup for Gronk. It just isn't. Sort of the same way I think.
Josh Shaw isn't the answer?
No. He might be the answer to something, just not the answer
not
to
that.
Gronkowski. No, that's not the answer. So yeah, I mean that's. I would have thought Kelsey would have had more, but then also I still think back to that first half, and Pat just seemed off. And there's at least one overthrow to Kelsey where he was open that if he puts it on him, that's a catch. And it wasn't just Kelsey, but there were probably at least 3 that I can remember. There were overthrows that like guys were open, he just didn't hit them.
Mm-hmm.
But I know for sure one of them was Kelsey that was fairly early. So yeah, I would have expected more on the tight ends, but again, teams get ready for that. Teams gear up for that. I mean,
They probably read your story and said,
Well, yeah,
hey,
clearly.
this is going to be the key to the game. We should
Yeah.
focus on that.
I want credit for all those pages too.
But with Kelsey not getting going and Mahomes being really slow in the first half, Kareem Hunt had a huge game, which seems to happen when he's here in Gillette. It's like he fumbled that one time and paid his dues early, and now he just owns this stadium. He finishes with 10 carries for 80 yards, and then he also had 5 catches for 105 yards and a touchdown. Sam, what did you see out of Kareem Hunt? What did you like about what he did, and is there anybody else that you would like to highlight offensively?
He just runs so hard. That's always what I always just notice how hard he runs and his balance. His balance is incredible. You see it both in his cuts, and then you also see it when he's headed for the sideline and just refuses. That guy will not go out of bounds unless he is lifted and thrown out of bounds by another human being. That play, it was in Denver a couple of weeks ago, was sort of the highlight in my mind about that one. I thought he went out of bounds by a foot, just watching live, but somehow he keeps his feet in and goes down. Those are the things I noticed. And he's such a weapon. I mean, obviously he's led the league in rushing, right? But it just he changes the way that teams can defend the pass, the way that they can defend the quarterback. Because you can't just concentrate on Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and that's enough of a challenge on its own. But you also have to worry about this kid that's going to just stiff arm you into the ground and then get a fine for it. But still,
Too
fine.
Kareem Hunt's just playing this season for free.
Right. He changes the way they play, and then running backs can be replaceable, whatever. I think Spencer Ware's a good player. Had a terrible job tonight.
Yeah, he did.
But so I think he's.
Hey, it's Blair Kirchhoff, and if you're listening to this, you love Kansas City sports, whether it's the Chiefs, Royals, Sporting, Mizzou, KU, or K-State. And no one covers these teams like the Kansas City Star. If you currently subscribe to the paper or have a digital subscription, thank you for your support. And if you don't, here's a great offer. It's called Sports Pass. Unlimited digital access to every sports story and video on kansascity.com. And it's just $30 for the first year. It's the best sports value in town, just 8 cents a day or $2.50 a month. You can't beat that. Subscribe now at kansascity.com/sportspass.
We've had a couple people mention. John says, "Can we talk about the $16 million on Watkins and not much action?" Which, yeah, I mean, he didn't have a big night statistically. He had a rush at the goal line that I thought was a really weird play call. Like on there, you have a bunch of running backs. Sammy Watkins, while he plays like a running back sometimes, that's not the play you want. And then he had 2 catches, 18 yards. Not much action, but
Was that the same one where they pulled Hunt?
yes, it was because we all said what happened to Hunt.
I didn't get that.
I don't know. And Andrew mentions they used Watkins mainly as a decoy tonight. It's not on him; that's on the scheme. And then Larry says the Watkins signing will be looked at as a mistake. Look, I don't think that's
6
the
games
case.
in, huh?
Yeah, I was good. This was not a good game for him statistically. Yeah, I think he was used as a decoy. That worked out, but up to this point, it felt like he was really getting in a groove. So I don't think the problem is Sammy Watkins at this point at all.
I think he helps it. We can argue about like the efficiency of the dollars or whatever, but he helps them. He changes what they can do offensively. It's weird to me that Sammy Watkins is the one that people are focusing on. Anthony Hitchens has not been worth that much.
No, he hasn't. And Hitchens and Ragland going into this season, it seemed like they were going to be noticeable difference makers.
Yeah.
And tonight, the biggest play that Reggie Ragland made was the one where he was in the position to make the tackle. he did everything he was supposed to do to make the tackle, and then the tackle just didn't happen. We also, incoming,
Look at this guy.
look who's here.
Hey, buddy.
Hi.
I don't know if you're in the frame yet, but we have Vahe
That was my
Gregorian
best. That was the
sitting
best
here.
thing I was going to do all night. That little look. Well, am I in the frame now? Is our producer
You will
in the
be.
frame?
Oh, here you are. You're getting the mic. I'm watching on the delay.
Anthony Hitchens, your thoughts?
The one play you guys were just talking about is really my thought.
The Reggie Ragland
He just
missed
like
tackle.
bounced off, and Raglan was a rag doll.
Yeah.
Boom. That show up in your column?
Put that on Twitter.
Tweet that.
It'll be in a column later this week now that you put it out.
Well, but speaking of that, you were talking to Reggie Raglan. Did you talk about that play?
Yeah, I mean, he's not that this should or does matter to anybody watching, but he's an easy guy to like for us. Like, he's up front, he's accountable. I mean, his thing, I talked to him for 2 minutes and 18 seconds, and he said, we got to finish 7 times. He also said,
Ooh.
Does he say I gotta finish?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. He says,
As long as
that
he
starts
also
with me,
okay.
wrap up, get to the ball, finish tackles. I mean, he is super, like, accountability is not the issue with him at all. And I think he genuinely sees himself as something of a leader on the defense, especially right now with those 2 guys hurt. Like, those are their 2 leaders, especially 29, especially the safety. But without those guys, I think he's not the best player, but it's the most in his personality, in his person, as the last GM might say, for him to be a leader and be that guy. And he's
That's actually
trying.
the best imitation you do, by the way. Sorry.
It's a low bar.
I'm damning you with faint praise.
It's a low bar.
Sorry.
Obviously they need to tackle. The runs up the middle, can't cover in space.
No,
They got problems.
they do have problems. We've had a couple people ask, how do we think Jordan Lucas did today? Vahe, would you like to answer that? You got some questions.
Well, he
to
almost
catch up on.
had that pick, and should have had it, but he was. We were noticing in the press box that he seemed really fired up about breaking up the pass, which reminds me a little bit about the time I batted down a ball coming into the press box during the World Series instead of trying to catch it. I should have tried to catch that ball. Blair
And then
knows
you
that
could have
story.
auctioned it off and
Blair
retired.
broke his finger by trying to catch a basketball, but at least he caught it. Anyway, I digress.
We're so glad
That was-
Vahe joined us. Aren't you
Because
guys?
it's 2:22.
That was the only play of his that really stood out to me. I didn't feel like I saw. What stood out to me, the defensive backfield, was Kendall Fuller getting burned again and
He had a
again.
bad game.
And I don't feel like he's made enough. I think he's quietly done good things. I think, but I don't think he's not made any difference making sort of plays. So it's making me feel like right now he's kind of a disappointment. I don't want to be too caught up in just the moment, but there were 2 plays tonight he really was stumbling out of the coverage and that one trail into the end zone. Then what would have been a 42-yard penalty, but it turned out they waved it off since it was caught anyway.
Right.
So that hit me, it seems like Skandrick still continues the strategy of holding a lot and sometimes getting away with it. I have to isolate on him more. It's a little unfair of me, but I do feel like anytime he's exposed in space or he's out in space, he's exposed as that. So maybe every cornerback and defensive back runs a lot, and I just some get away with better than others. But I don't know. You guys probably already talked about the defensive backs. I mean, what
Actually, we haven't. We were saving it just for you.
well.
Well, Sam, look at your stat sheet and go to the defense. And who were the top?
We're going to turn to the defensive.
I think Hitchens quietly had more tackles than we realized. He did in the
two
first half.
Two guys that have been ripped ended up at the top of the.
Hitchens with 14 combined tackles, Lucas with 10, Parker 9, Ragland 7.
Yeah, that's surprising. That's a quiet 10 from Lucas.
Yeah, that surprised me. Well,
I think the segue into Patty Mahomes would be appropriate now. So
Well,
Yeah,
you
we've kind of covered everyone
Okay.
around him.
Yeah.
And
well,
have it, like,
here's just a thought I have, and it's a little bit of what I got into and what I wrote. You go down there in that locker room. I didn't stay on this point very long, but was that not kind of an upbeat locker room for a team that just lost? And
Yeah.
Has no way of defending the other team
Were
ever
you
again.
Were you in the huddle with Kareem Hunt? He was more chatty and smiley tonight than I've seen him at any point in the locker room, after practice, before practice, after games.
And look, that's how I felt. And Tyreek Hill was kind of, almost bubbly a little bit, and Patrick was sort of exactly the way he always is. A little bit of a sense of humor, reflective, happy to criticize himself, give you a little bit on that. I thought it was really honest and good insight on how that first interception happened. I mean, it was apparent, but the way he owned it as he does, but he also described it, I think, in an interesting way, that he thought Hightower was blitzing, and he lost him in the coverage, and Hightower bobbed back out, and Kelsey had beaten his guy, but he didn't count on the extra guy popping up at like a video game. So, but I guess my broader point here is that the only reason anybody's upbeat is because of obviously what happened in the second half, and it's not all because of Patrick, but a lot of it's because of Patrick. And I feel like my premise is that he kind of served notice in a different way, that there's, I don't know, changing of the guard. I didn't use that term, and I don't know if that's really the right way to look at it, but it is interesting seeing him up against Brady in kind of a classic game.
I think Brady during the week used the term carrying the torch.
Yeah.
Like, and he, obviously he was talking about Patrick, but he was talking about just, young guys.
Handing to a younger guy, right? Yeah. You used that. That was the kicker in your story the other day, so I felt I shouldn't use it. Actually, it was 2 days ago. I should have asked.
Things die on the internet quickly. But that, I think, is another good point. Is I can't scroll back up to see who asked it, because it was asked a little bit ago, and we've had a lot of comments. So thanks to you guys for interacting with us. But a couple people have noted that they feel differently after this loss, following the 5-0 start, than they did last year. That this doesn't feel like it's the pin popping the big bubble. And both of you guys were here last year. You remember what that was like. How different does this feel with Patrick there?
The part that was disheartening about last year was they started 5-0, and then they come home and they lose to the Steelers in the exact same way that they lost to the Steelers in the playoffs. Le'Veon Bell had 179 yards in one of those games and like 173 in the other one. One of them was like 18-16, the other one was like 18-15. I mean, it was the same freaking game. Here, they start 5-0, they lose, but they're in this building, and it feels different in a way. I don't think they've ever lost like this before. The thing, I know I'm repeating myself, but this is a critical point, at least in the way that I see the Chiefs, is that in the past, they had a path. They could get to the Super Bowl with what they had, but everything had to go right. Mm-hmm. And Alex Smith was, I use this term, but keeping the trains running on time. And if you pushed him off a little bit, they got nothing. How far were the trains off time, here?
Especially in the first half.
That guy,
24-9 at halftime.
That quarterback gives them a margin for error that they literally have never had in their franchise history. I wasn't around for Lynn Dawson, but it doesn't seem like they were airing it out this way. They've never had that guy. That to me is the difference.
That to me is too, and to the point where, and I saw this on our Twitter's really our only engagement with the outside world during the game. I felt like a number of Chiefs fans felt like, well, it's not over. I normally, in years past, I'd switch. That was one comment I saw. I'd be looking at other options on TV right now, but they stayed, and you really do realize just score a touchdown and the complexion of the game changes, and that's exactly what happened. That suddenly, of course, I guess they did force one field goal, right? That was the defensive feat, and they never did force a punt, but they created a couple opportunities. The turnover. That was big. But I feel like anyway, anything becomes possible. Even with this defense being what it is, I feel like anything is possible with this team, and I don't feel like you would feel that any less after this game than you would have coming into it.
Patriots became the first team in NFL history to not punt or commit a penalty in a game.
Not commit a penalty or get called for a penalty.
Well,
have a penalty on their ledger.
Yeah, because
And
they were
won the field
called.
goal at the
They
goal.
won, yes, and they needed a field goal on the
Yeah.
last play.
The Chiefs are down 15 and a half, get one stop in the second half, and
Well,
come back and take the lead.
and
That's
down,
freaking
what, 4
incredible.
starters down,
That's
basically,
incredible.
with
Yeah.
the injury to Mitch.
I was gonna say because I mean that's the other thing. I think that's part of the reason why there's some upbeatness because it's like one play basically could have switched this thing. Because I mean, without having asked everybody, I'm pretty sure if you ask them, they figure if they get a stop and they get the ball back, they're all assuming that they're going to go down and be able to score.
that's exactly what Kareem Hunt said. He said this felt like a game where whoever had the ball
Yeah.
last was going to win. And he said if it was us, we would have won this game. I feel like this was the college equivalent of the games that Patrick played in Texas Tech.
He's got some
He's like,
experience
this
in
is exact. That's probably why he was so chill after the game. He's like, man, this was my entire college career. I know all about like putting the team on my back and then having the defense let me down. But yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly their mentalities. They felt like if they had had any more time, there was the one score. Was it right before Tyreek Hill's touchdown where it was like, just go ahead and let him get in? I mean, if there was any more time on that clock.
Yeah, the big play down.
Yeah.
Gronk,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Because they stopped. Like Gronk had one other big play, but they ended up holding to a field goal on that one, which still means they come back and tie it. But the last one was the one that just sort of this set up the game-winning field goal and put it out of reach. But so basically, if you could stop Gronk one more time, or play that one a little bit differently, get to Brady, whatever, come up with one more stop, then they probably feel like we get the ball, we don't score. I mean, that's just the way that Mahomes brings that. Like you said, it comes back to Mahomes.
Yeah.
He brings that where it's like one more stop,
Yeah.
go score.
This is a point worth making, I think, that all around the locker room, and I spent most of all my time on the defensive side of that locker room, but I'm assuming on the offensive side, they were saying similar things as you heard, we're going to see them again. We expect to see them over and over and over again.
Mahomes said it to Brady on the field.
Yeah.
That's a reason, that this one feels different. That quarterback is a reason. They have we can all make jokes about Eric Berry's day to day and Justin Houston being hurt again, and some of those jokes will be funny, but they still expect both those guys to be back. And if those guys are back, that defense is fundamentally different. And the margin right now without those guys was a razor. I mean, it was super thin. So there's no moral victories, but they also have two. This is important too. They're 5-1. The Patriots are now 4-2, right? So, and the Chiefs' schedule, they got the Bengals. That's a tough game, but
They're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah, their schedule loosens up a little bit in the second half, and they already have the sort of inside track for home field advantage. They just, again, there's no moral victories, but they have a lot of reasons to feel like this isn't the end.
Well, and I think if we all go back and look at the score predictions that we made at the beginning of the season, none of us had the Chiefs at 5-1 in this point. I mean, I think maybe at best somebody might have had 3-2 or 3-3.
I think
4-2.
I think I
What's
had him
math?
3-3, and I had him 10-6.
I was told there was no math in sports writing. I was wrong. Somebody lied.
One thing that it's worth speaking to for a second, if you guys haven't already spoken to it, but this came up a lot on Twitter, and we sort of talked about it among ourselves. But did you guys get to address Andy's decision to just go for just back to kick the extra point when they cut it to 27-26? Well, we were talking about it in there, and there were some people critical of it, but you're taking the bat out of your hands if you're not careful there. And Blair explained it best. I mean, bottom line is the Patriots. You're accounting for the fact that Patriots are probably going to score another touchdown. So
Because you've looked at their defense, you've
if
watched it all game.
you do not convert the 2 point there, you're looking at you're making it a 2-score game when it would just be a 1-score game. So I think that's Blair. Would you add to that, or would you? That's
it's the
really
difference between 8 points and 9 points.
possibility of
Yeah.
8 or 9.
Yeah.
And also it's too early. I mean,
It was still the third quarter.
one-point game
It was
in the third
27.
quarter.
It was 27-26. The final score is 43-40.
Yeah.
The one part of it, I'm open to the argument that the calculus changes when you have that offense and that defense and those play calls that seem very gadgety and able to get, the 3 yards when you need it. Like, I'm open to that argument, but I also think, like, once you chase points, if you don't get it, you're going to be chasing them all game. And it seems like just watching football, it just seems like when teams start doing that, in the third quarter or whatever, they end up regretting it a lot more often than they don't. That's what it seems like. That's completely anecdotal.
How many 2-point plays do you think they have for any game? Do you think they've got 3? They got 7?
I think
1?
Andy probably has 54.
He might be inventing them on the sideline during the game. That would not shock
He's
me.
got those.
By the way, Abby mentions that her big takeaway from this game was that the Chiefs belong. That more than anything.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
That was the lesson here. And because it's 2:35, Jordan, big thanks to you. You want to know our final thoughts. So we're going to wrap up with our final
Well
thoughts.
done, Jordan.
So thank you for that. You're the winner. I don't know what you're going to get, but you get our eternal gratitude. So let's wrap up with some final thoughts. We've had a bunch of people asking about trades and possibility of guys that Beach could add. So if you want to include any of those in your final thoughts, or if you just want to get out of here and go to bed and make it short and sweet, and we'll hit the road back to Quincy. Vahe, we'll hit it with you.
Boy, final thoughts. That suggests I had previous thoughts. No, just look. We've already said this, but I don't know why you'd be too discouraged by this. We don't, and I also don't think, in a way, I think we refined what we knew about Patrick Mahomes, and we just confirmed what we know about the defense. And Sam, everybody's been saying it, but Sam's been saying it specifically since early on. This defense will cost them a game or two here and there. But it's about getting yourself positioned for the playoffs. I think we can talk that way legitimately. This is a learning experience for them. I think they'll be better off for this overall. Patrick will be, and I hope they do get to play this team again.
Yeah, they need the defense is obviously a huge problem, and they're going to need save you a click. This is what I wrote in my column. If Pat keeps playing like this, they also need to add somebody from the outside, and I think they probably will. Probably a safety, maybe a linebacker. They need those two guys to be healthy at the same freaking time in the postseason, and the guys they have right now need to be better. Like Reggie Ragland needs to not like. I love accountability. But, after like the Seahawks game or whatever that's on December 23rd, if he's still talking about we need to tackle better, that's a huge problem.
It's on the trade front. Like, it's the thing that always bothers me is people always talk about who you're trading for, but what are you trading and who? I mean, it's not like you just, oh yes, this team is wanting to maybe get rid of this guy. We'll just take that from him. You realize the
There's
trade
some things
would
that go into that.
require you to send something there that they want, that they had agreed to, and maybe it's like, oh yeah, we'll trade that, but we want to take, that Tyreek Hill guy whose contract isn't that bad. We're going to take him. So let's keep that in mind when everybody starts throwing out, oh yes, they're going to just trade for this, Patrick Peterson or whatever. Well, it sounds great. And for me, I guess, and I don't know if they have anybody who's going to be that big time guy, but sometimes I think the team that you have, when you have guys who still have upside left, sometimes that might be the best trade that you have is somebody who's making progress and getting better. I just don't know if there's anybody who's going to make a big leap. But I think it's, whether it's guys like Speaks or Nadi or Traymon Smith who maybe can make some plays for you because they're still just sort of getting their feet wet. To me, that would be one of the areas where you look for stuff. And then, if there's guys who are out there to be had, like on the street or, stuff like that, that's true.
That's where we're at right now. We're just looking, Brett V just cruising Kansas City looking for athletic people on the street.
Hey, if that's, that might be the other, but I just don't know that you just count on, we'll trade for somebody else. Plus, the guys that you get back from injury,
I'm with you. I think my final takeaway is I'm excited to see more of Tremont Smith. I love special teams. I love big plays. And what he did tonight, I think, is just a preview of what we're going to see more. And on that note, Blair is hovering behind the iPad. He's ready to go to bed. We're ready to go to bed. Y'all are definitely ready to go to bed. So we'll catch you later this week. We'll be back on Wednesday because for now we are on to Cincinnati.